Saint John Paul II, the man who walked through fire and chose to forgive. In a small Polish town called Wadowice, on the morning of May 18, 1920, the church bells rang softly over cobblestone streets. No one knew that a child born that day would one day shake the world. His name was Karol Józef Wojtyła, a name the world would later know as Pope John Paul II. From his first breath, Karol's life was marked by loss. His mother died when he was only 9. His beloved brother Edmund, a young doctor, died soon after while caring for the sick. By the time Karol was 20, his father, his last surviving family, had also passed away. In the quiet of an empty home, he would often kneel beside his father's bed, where he had watched him pray countless nights and whisper through tears, "Jesus, you are now my only family." It was as if suffering became the soil where his faith took root. While others drowned in grief, Karol allowed his pain to transform him. Every heartbreak became a prayer, every loss, a whisper of surrender. But the storm around him was only beginning. In 1939, World War II erupted. Nazi Germany invaded Poland, and the air itself seemed to carry the weight of fear. Churches were burned, priests were arrested, and hope became a dangerous thing to hold on to. Karol's university was shut down by the occupying forces. To survive, he worked in a quarry by day and later in a chemical factory, covered in sweat and dust, his hands bruised from labor. Yet even in those dark years, he carried a quiet fire in his heart. He secretly studied for the priesthood in an underground seminary, hidden from the Nazis. By candlelight, in secret rooms beneath the city, he read scripture and prayed, surrounded by young men who risked their lives for the call of God. Every day could have been their last, yet they never stopped preparing. Karol once said, "In the midst of darkness, God was writing a story of light. He saw death on every corner. He saw neighbors dragged away, entire families disappear. Yet he never grew bitter. He believed love was stronger than hate. Hope was stronger than fear. When the war finally ended, he was ordained a Catholic priest in 1946. His joy was uncontainable. He was not a priest of sorrow, but of life. His laughter was contagious. He loved poetry, music, and the outdoors. He would take young people hiking and kayaking, talking with them about God as they sat by rivers or under the stars. He taught them that holiness wasn't locked inside church walls. It was to be found in friendship, in laughter, in courage, and in love. He was a priest who made faith feel alive. People said that when he looked at you, it was as though he saw your soul and still smiled. Years passed. His wisdom grew. In 1958, he became a bishop and later the Archbishop of Krakow. The communists who ruled Poland tried to silence the church, but Karol refused to bow. His sermons were bold, his voice fearless. He defended human dignity when freedom was crushed under the weight of oppression. He became the voice of a nation that had been told to stay silent. Then came October 16, 1978. The world watched in astonishment as the white smoke rose from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. The cardinals had chosen the first non-Italian pope in 455 years. When Karol Wojtyła stepped onto the balcony, the crowd fell silent. And then he spoke. "Be not afraid, open wide the doors to Christ." Those few words became the anthem of his papacy, a message that echoed into the hearts of millions living in fear and uncertainty. From that day, Pope John Paul II became a pilgrim to the world. He traveled more than any pope before him, visiting 129 countries, standing before crowds that stretched beyond sight. He spoke in churches, stadiums, and streets. He met presidents and peasants, Muslims, Jews, and atheists, always with the same message: "You are loved. You matter to God." He returned to his homeland, Poland, in 1979. The communists feared his visit, but millions flooded the streets. His presence lit a spark of courage that spread like wildfire. The Polish people stood tall again, and from that spark was born the Solidarity movement, which would eventually bring down communism across Eastern Europe. Many say that a man armed only with prayer and words did what armies could not. But his greatest test was yet to come. It was May 13th, 1981, a warm afternoon in Rome. The Pope was riding through St. Peter's Square in his open jeep, blessing the crowd, smiling, waving. Suddenly, gunshots shattered the air. Pope John Paul II slumped into the arms of his aide, blood pouring from his body. Panic erupted. The Vatican Square turned into chaos. He was rushed to the hospital. For hours, doctors fought for his life. The world prayed. Millions of candles burned in every country. And then, against all odds, he survived. Later, he said something that stunned even his doctors. One hand pulled the trigger, another guided the bullet. It was May 13th, the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. He believed it was the Blessed Virgin Mary who had saved him. Months later, when he recovered enough to walk, he did something unimaginable. He went to visit his shooter, Mehmet Ali Aka, in prison. The guards were tense, unsure what would happen. The door closed behind him. Inside the small cell, the Pope sat face to face with the man who had tried to kill him. They spoke softly. No cameras, no reporters, just two men, one who had caused pain and one who chose mercy. Then John Paul II leaned forward and said, "I forgive you." The gunman lowered his head and began to weep. That single moment changed the world. It wasn't politics or power. It was pure divine forgiveness. The kind of forgiveness that only comes from a soul completely surrendered to God. The years went by and the Pope continued his mission. He preached peace where there was war. He comforted the dying and the broken. He stood beside the poor, the forgotten, and the persecuted. He became a father figure to the world, strong, humble, and filled with love. But behind his radiant smile, his body was slowly failing. Parkinson's disease began to take hold. His movements grew slow, his voice weaker, his hands trembled. The man who once climbed mountains now struggled to walk, yet he refused to give up. When people begged him to rest, he simply said, "Christ did not come down from the cross. Through every moment of weakness, he showed the world what true strength looks like. It was not in the absence of suffering, but in the courage to endure it." His suffering became his final sermon, a silent, powerful testimony that even pain can glorify God. On the evening of April 2nd, 2005, the great Pope lay in his bed, surrounded by prayer. Outside, hundreds of thousands filled St. Peter's Square, holding candles and singing hymns. As the Divine Mercy Chaplet was being prayed, Pope John Paul II took his final breath. The lights in his room dimmed. Heaven, it seemed, opened to receive a servant who had finished his mission. The bells of St. Peter's rang through the night and the world wept. They weren't mourning a ruler. They were mourning a father, a friend, a man who had shown them the face of Christ. Days later, millions flooded Rome for his funeral. The crowd was so vast that it stretched beyond what the eye could see. From every corner of the earth, voices rose together crying, "Santo subito! Make him a saint now!" 9 years later, on April 27, 2014, Pope Francis canonized him as St. John Paul II. Today, his words still echo like a heartbeat in the soul of the Church. Do not be afraid. The future starts today, not tomorrow. Love is stronger than death. St. John Paul II was proof that holiness is not perfection. It is persistence. It is falling and rising again. It is believing in light when surrounded by shadows. And so, when we remember him, we remember not just a pope, but a man who walked among us, humble, fearless, and full of faith. A man who reminded us that no matter how deep the night may seem, the dawn will always come. Because as he said, the world you are inheriting is a world that needs a new kind of hope. Do not be afraid to be saints. Take a moment to reflect on what forgiveness truly means. He was a man who could have sought revenge, but instead offered love. Ask yourself today, can I forgive those who hurt me the way John Paul II forgave his shooter? Type in the comments, St. John Paul II, pray for me. Let the story of this great saint remind you that holiness is not about perfection. It's about love, forgiveness, and faith in the face of pain. Don't just watch and scroll away. Share this video so that more hearts can be touched by the power of forgiveness and faith.